Enjoy a seat at the table and good company, where great conversations and meaningful discussions happen.
Welcome to And Good Company. I'm Sarah Beetleholtz. We all know that what really makes a dinner party great isn't the food, it's the people seated around the table engaging in lively discussion. And Good Company gives you a seat at the table to enjoy smart and engaging conversations as they happen. I am pleased to be in the company of Palermo Galindo, the Community Liaison for the City of Fort Wayne. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. It's an honor to be here. Greatly appreciate this invitation.
Oh, no, I'm excited to talk to you about what's going on in our neighborhoods. You're like the Mr. Rogers of neighborhoods, right?
I am? Oh, okay.
You reach out and you connect you're the liaison, right? So you connect from the city to the individual neighborhoods.
Yeah, so my job with the city is really connect with people in the community where there's a need. I get calls or emails or people stop me at the grocery store and ask me about something that's happening in their neighborhood, how they can improve it, or how they can get in touch with their police liaison as well. So I sort of provide that information. Also, if there's someone that needs to talk to the mayor, also those calls come to me, and then I take care of those for him.
And although this is your 11th year as the community liaison, you have a very interesting background. You actually started as a graphic designer and photographer, correct?
Yes, I started as a graphic designer, yes.
And so in 2016, you did a photo exhibit, My, Your, Ours. And I think that your idea of the types of photos that you took in terms of the race perceptions and race relations that touch the community, you have a very interesting idea of what you were trying to achieve in terms of looking at how that reflects the community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, that was a project that I have been, I thought about it for many years, and there was an opportunity to showcase my photographs. And I have attended to several meetings and demonstrations here in Fort Wayne and Indianapolis from the Hispanic community, the African American community, and others as well. And I photographed many people. Mio is mine, yours, ours. It's the perception of people that are seen just without any talking. So this project really honed on not just having the photographs, but actually I inserted messages from people in the community that really discussed how they felt as people were seeing them. And you were surprised, there were so many heart-wrenching thoughts and comments made with those photographs that really people, when they saw the exhibit, were touched.
And you did that in 2016. So given all that we've seen, especially this last summer, are you going to do an updated one or add to it or expand on it?
I hope so. I hope so. I was grateful that Indiana Tech had purchased my exhibit, so they have it there, and looking forward for them to exhibit that again in the
and then you can add more photos. But you have this idea that really what you were trying to show is that the actions of all individuals affect everyone, and that we need, the awareness, the thought, the solidarity, that's what really sort of reflects a community.
Certainly, and that's exactly what you mentioned. That was the goal, to really make people in the community think what their actions are and how they treat others, if they're just live different or are they from different social status.
And you really, community is important to you. You play a big role in the Hispanic community. You were just appointed, right, to a new, the Indiana Commission on Hispanic and Latino Affairs?
Yes, I was appointed by Senator Bry, and before that, it was our senator that made a distinction that he wanted to have someone from Fort Wayne to be part of this commission. And this commission is a nonpartisan commission, and we have the representatives throughout the whole state, where we work together to provide information, provide resources, and represent the community as a whole for the state. We make recommendations to the governor's office, and also we have an annual report.
Right. And then you also you were involved with or continue to be involved with the Hispanic Community Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And then your interest in the community extends far beyond your job, because you actually ran for city council at large, right, and of the county, right, in 2016.
I certainly did, yes.
And so are you thinking about running again?
Well, that's always on the works. I believe that I got the taste of running for office and got great experience, met some wonderful people that supported me, and I was able really to connect with people, not just part of my job, but actually on the issues that really interest them and how they want to be represented in the county, or actually in the city.
And although your title is Community Liaison, I like to think of you as you're the person on the street beat, that's your beat, and that you really serve as a connector and a neighborhood advocate in that sense.
Yes, that's something that really, when I first started, the Mayor Henry wanted to get our communities served. It was actually a group of people from the Hispanic community that approached the mayor, and they wanted to have a liaison. He listened to them. There was an interview process, and I was able to get this position, beating about 23 to 25 people that applied for. So.
Right.
It was very competitive.
I'm sure.
And what really gave the difference for me was because I was already well connected with the community.
Right.
And I didn't have to start over.
Right.
And that conversation with the community members was very good.
And your position sort of expanded, because there used to be like 4 community liaisons, and now there's 1. So you really have to really understand the overall community. So let's talk a little bit about, what does neighboring look like in Fort Wayne?
Neighboring, well, I believe it's something that you really showcase your neighborhood. You care about your neighborhood. You have good relationships with your neighbor or neighbors, and you have an association that really cares about what's happening in their community. I believe over the time that I have spent with the city, many neighborhoods are doing fantastic, and others are seeing how ones that just started maybe 5 years ago are doing so well that they are getting excited to start their own neighborhood association.
So what do you think, in your from your really micro view of the city, what do you think makes a neighborhood successful?
As I mentioned, the relationships you establish with the neighborhood, and also not only that, but you have to have a good bridge to build with the city as well, with your city council, and also your state representatives as well. So it's a civic duty that I believe people need to have and develop that. Because of technology and because of the pandemic, we are now just meeting through Zoom meetings or other uses of technology, but it has kept the thread ongoing for our community. So,
but it's really important for the neighborhoods themselves to engage and become active, amongst their residents. So, I mean, I was surprised to learn that there's over 400 neighborhoods, but only maybe 300 that are really active and have neighborhood associations?
Well, yes, and I believe because the ones that are not active, really there's nothing happening in their neighborhood. The core neighborhoods that are very active are the ones that are needing some improvements on the over 100-year homes, or lighting, or drainage, or other things like that. The newer neighborhoods are still, just listening in. There's something happening, they'll pop in and provide some feedback for the city. But those are the ones that, they're very new. They really don't have a lot to get involved. So those are the ones that are, just
But they still could.
sidelines.
I mean, have you seen that with the pandemic, and because people are staying closer to home, there is more people getting connected with their neighbors and concern for their neighbors and checking on their neighbors? Have you seen that, that it's sort of become more important during this time?
It has. It certainly has. And I think that we all have made a change, I think like the in-person and face-to-face relationship is very important, but now we have to figure it out how to deal with through this pandemic. And I believe there's a lot of people are working with the neighbors and the neighborhood association. More so, because they want the neighborhood association to thrive and not decay.
Right.
So.
And what do you think are some of the misperceptions about some of the city's neighborhoods?
Misperceptions, things I heard, the city doesn't care about our place, or we're not organized because, there's power struggles. I think there's a lot of things that are discussed, but when I get calls like that, my first initial question is, have you talked to your neighbor? Have you talked to your neighborhood president? Have you talked to the advocate for that area? And most of the time, I'll say 95%, they say, no, I haven't, I'm just venting.
Right.
So after that discussion, then we find, I provide at least 2 to 3 resources that they can get information, and they're very appreciative of how I provide that information. And they do follow through, and they call me back and say, thanks for connecting me with this department, with this captain of the police or the president of the neighborhood association.
A lot of times people just don't know where to go. So let's talk a little bit about the Southeast Fort Wayne plan. So there are 50 neighborhoods that make up Southeast Fort Wayne. Let's start with, what do you think is the fact and fiction about the perception of Southeast Fort Wayne?
Well, there's many, and I will say the main one is that there's nothing happening in the Southeast. I would say that as the mayor has mentioned on his State of the City and other developments that the city has done, they have made a lot of improvements in sidewalks and the streets as well, lighting, developments that are happening for affordable housing. So those are a lot of things that are happening. Yes, maybe there's no high-end restaurant, investing in there, but they are working on that, and we have a great city council people that are very focused on making this happen.
Right. But do you think that part of the problem is that when they talk about, so they presented this plan, which was an updated from the 2007 plan, which at that time really focused more on housing, and this plan's going to focus more on economic development. And so they decided the 4 areas that they were going to look at, and then they went ahead and then they got some architects and design firms to come up with some ideas, and then recently the city council passed the plan. But the problem is that doesn't mean it's going to happen. I mean, it makes it seem like all these things that they're going to do on the Southeast, it's like a guarantee, but that's not true, because now they've got to go out and seek partners or get the neighborhoods involved, right? I mean, it's the plan. It's not like the done deal, right?
Well, it's a plan, and I think it's educating our residents about what is happening and having their input to provide that information to them is very essential. What I'm really happy that my colleagues and people in the neighborhood associations for that area they have been very involved, and they have information in different languages, and it was not just in English, so they reach out to several business owners from our different communities. So it has been a very good effort to get this done. And of course, I think a lot of things may not happen the next day or within 2 to 3 years. It always comes down to who's going to fund, the project. So our city continues to grow, and with the leadership of Mayor Henry and others, I mean, as we continue to grow.
And I think that it's also important for people to realize that, like I said, that Southeast is 50 neighborhoods. So it's not just only African Americans that live in Southeast, right? I mean, there's a large Hispanic community, there's a Burmese community, there's some Asian community, right? I mean, so how do they all come together, and do you find that those different neighborhoods and associations are really able to work together for the greater good of Southeast Fort Wayne?
Well, I could attest to that because I coordinate the mayor's neighborhood walks prior to the pandemic, and we visited several neighborhoods throughout the city, and we get to knock on the door and ask the resident if they want to speak directly to the mayor. He brings all his staff, and there's an immediate feedback that he gets from the residents, and believe it, we have knocked on all the different ethnic groups that are represented in the city, and it's been great. You know, people really appreciate that the mayor really gets out and walks, and that us as city staff are there to take notes, to follow up with any concerns, and that makes it very, very good city that comes together. So that's what I believe.
And although I think that a lot of people think that downtown gets a lot of the attention and focus, there actually are several initiatives or organizations within the city that focus on neighborhoods. So can you explain like what the Office of Housing and Neighborhood Services does and how you work with them?
Well, yes, they provide community development grants, block grants, CDBG, to organizations.
And what is a CBDG?
So community development block grants.
Okay.
That's what it is.
And is that different than the neighborhood improvement grants?
That is correct.
Okay, so what's the difference between the two?
So the Office of Housing and Neighborhood Services that provides those grants where they can provide roof, so
like homeowner repairs.
Homeowner repairs, yes, they provide that, or furnace or air conditioning services. So you have to apply for those, and it's based on income.
Okay.
And there's a screening
program. So those are for the specific homeowner.
Yes.
Okay. And then the neighborhood improvement grants, those are for the neighborhood, like the association?
Neighborhood association, that is correct.
And so they use the neighborhood improvement grant is designed for what?
Well, there's several projects. You know, you can showcase your associations with a banner. You can do a community garden. You can improve the lighting of your association. You can do the sidewalks as well if you don't want to wait for the city to replace them. Trees. Some neighborhoods are buying trees from the Parks Department and planting those. So there's so many different ways that you could get involved and beautify your neighborhood. So there's so many different projects that I'm excited to see every year, because there's great opportunities for everyone to highlight the neighborhood.
And why, I mean, and you have like there was the city sidewalk project where it was paving so that for kids to walk to school. Why are sidewalks so important?
Well, walkability definitely is something that they have, my colleagues at the community development office is they are really working to, they have a plan as well, walking plan, so they can provide sidewalks for people that want to walk, take hikes and everything else. So it's been a great way to mobilize communities, as many people really want to walk instead of utilizing their cars, and you know.
And also, I think if you're walking on the sidewalk, then you're passing your neighbors, and if people are sitting outside, so then it's a natural engagement.
Yes, that's one, and then also the environment. You're taking care of the environment of your city, and that it leads to lower emissions.
Right. And so in August of 2019, there was a $1 million set aside for the Investing in Neighborhoods Now initiative, and that was to help the residents make neighborhood improvements. So what have you seen, what's going on there, and what's been done, because now it's really over a year, although the pandemic, but with this Investing in Neighborhoods, what are some of the projects or initiatives that you've seen?
Yes, as I just mentioned, there have been projects of banners for the neighborhood association, also markers. You can also entryways, archers as well, and it's just a lot of things. And as you know, every neighborhood is different,
Right.
and they want to showcase their neighborhood with that pride item that they have. So some they have small, nice decals or that are on the light poles, and the other ones are bigger
Right.
markers and stone pillars, and there's so many things that I get. Also the neighborhood gardens are very important to get the kids to work.
Why is green space and parks so important to neighborhoods?
Oh, without a doubt, a sense of belonging. You belong to that. You're tending to a garden. You're tending to some vegetables or some flowers, and you're also bringing your children, your grandchildren,
Right.
and the kids really, their eyes really pop out when they see something that's happening and growing. And
Right, they don't realize that not everything comes from the grocery store.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a sense of belonging and being in touch with the environment.
So now let's talk about a couple of actual neighborhoods and what they've been doing, and sort of, looking at the success story. So let's look at Mount Vernon neighborhood. So tell me about what that community and neighborhood has done, and what made it successful to achieve these things.
Well, I give a credit to the people involved in Mount Vernon, and I believe you had them in the past interview.
Javier Mondragon, the pastor, and Raina Bradley, who are part of the Bridges of Grace Compassionate Ministries Center.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, I mean, he's been there now 10 years. But I'm curious from you, as being someone who looks at all these neighborhoods, and sort of, what is it that they have or that they've done that has made them successful?
Well, they got together. They really put their hands together to work hard and get in touch with the neighborhoods and really connect with them and asking them what they want to see in their neighborhood. I went to the first meetings when they first started. It was maybe a handful of people that attended that neighborhood association. Over a year, there was several more,
Right.
and now it has fully, developed into a really good neighborhood that has block captains, and they keep in touch. They meet every month as well, and they have lowered their crime.
Yeah, they've lowered their crime. So it's gone from, so in 2013, there were 33 burglaries, and in 2017, there were 10. So, okay, so let's look at that. So do you think that partly what makes that successful is that there was an organized leader? Like, I mean, Javier really, there was somebody who drove this, who sort of saw the vision and then got people on board. So do you think that that's critical for success in a neighborhood?
Well, I think it could be one person. It could be a board of directors for the neighborhood association, or even the neighbors. With the people I have interacted over the 11 years with the city, there's different types of personalities, as I mentioned before, and they work together for the greater good of the neighborhood association.
Right.
So it could be one person, it could be 3 to 5, but there's always that vision that, yes, I belong to this neighborhood, and I'm gonna make it happen, and I'm gonna showcase, because this is my investment as a homeowner. You want to see your property values continue to grow, and a lot of people are concerned about that, and they are doing a great job.
Right. Well, I want to put aside the issue of property value, because I do want to talk to you a little bit about that. But in terms, let's stay with Mount Vernon Park a little bit. So he also, I mean, I think part of it is that Javier and his family live in the neighborhood. I mean, they have a presence. They're out there. I mean, I know his wife, goes running in the neighborhood, and so there's a presence there. They also really worked on creating a public-private partnerships in terms. How important is that to the success of a neighborhood?
Well, I think he's done a great job to really reach out to people that are concerned about the well-being of the city and also neighborhoods. So there's so many great people in they have philanthropic thinking and means to really support our community. And I can't name all of them because we have so many, but we have great people. So.
Right. Well, they have a big relationship with Habitat for Humanity, for instance, because one of the things that Javier recognized that there were 550 houses in Mount Vernon, mostly 1950s ranch-style homes, and so a lot of them were in disrepair, and so he's actually, in some cases, bought them and rehabbed them and then sold them.
Yes.
And then they've also taken some of the empty lots with Habitat for Humanity and built new homes through the Habitat program.
Yes, and people actually that, local hospitals that had bought and provided some support as well for them and get them started with their business of the lawn care. They bought the trucks.
He started a lawn care business for not only for his neighborhood, but people in the neighborhood go to other neighborhoods that want to hire them.
Yeah. So there's as I mentioned, I mean, there's so many people that get involved, and it's actually, he's really patient. He's a great guy, and I'm very proud to say he's from the same state of Mexico that I'm from.
Where are you from in Mexico?
Mexico. I was born in Mexico City, but I grew up in the state of Morelos, which is 2 hours south of Mexico City.
Okay.
So when we first met, we connected, and it's like, we're from the same state. And he told me his story, and I told him my story, and then it's incredible to see how he's grown and become such a integral part of our fabric of the community.
And he really wants to take this model of what he's created there and replicate it in other neighborhoods. Do you think that that's possible?
Certainly, it is possible. I believe there's a lot more people that care about our neighborhoods that people think to believe that they're not. I guess, the way I see it is like for me, for instance, I want my children to be proud of the place they live or they've grown. And so with that said in mind, there's so many people that will definitely make that, and it'll grow. I'm certain for that.
And you know that I have a personal passion and interest in neighborhoods for lots of reasons. So when I sort of asked you what other neighborhoods were doing things that were innovative, or neighborhoods that you think were on a path of success, you talked to me, you pointed out Larez, Oxford, Renaissance Point, Continental Park. So can you tell me a little bit about what some of these neighborhoods are doing and what successes they've been having?
Again, it comes down to the connection with the neighborhoods, with the neighbors, and getting the feedback straight from there and taking care of the different needs that they have. Again, each neighborhood is a little bit different from the other one.
Right.
But the common goal is to make this association thrive and make it happen. So those, neighborhood presidents that I refer you to are great people. I don't know if you had talked to them, but they're just fantastic individuals that have been living here in Fort Wayne for many years. Some they grew up here and they decided to stay, and they have made their association a part of their lives. And one of the things I want to say to all the presidents and association members is that there are unsung heroes, because they don't get paid. They get the phone calls. If it's snowing and nobody's cleaning their sidewalks, or there's something happening with the police, and they're the ones that get the call first. So I always I'm grateful, and I let them know that their work is very important to provide that service. And again, nobody gets paid, and they're a true heroes.
And so let's talk a little bit about this idea of community policing. Do you think that just like you, I mean, I joke, how many pairs of shoes do you go through a year walking, well, before the pandemic, walking the street? I mean, you're out there. What do you think about the use of more community type policing and getting them more to have like a street beat?
I think we have a great chief, and also the deputy chiefs and captains that are really involved at the community level. I attend to, well, again, prior to the pandemic, the monthly meetings with each quadrant of the city, and that's where the neighborhoods come together for each quadrant.
That's when all the presidents of the neighborhoods in that quadrant meet. Okay.
So the deputy chief is present, the fire department as well, neighborhood code, and many others as well, city departments, and myself included. So there's the sense of community, there's always that phone call that you could provide. They give their numbers to everyone, so it is very important that we continue with that. And sometimes things happen, but there's a ways that we can make it work better and improve. Again, we as humans are, we have a lot of things and maybe faults, but we have to grow and make things happen for the betterment of our city.
And do you think that, in your view, the most successful neighborhoods, how important is the involvement of the residents themselves, not just having this very active president of the association? How important is that for residents to be involved?
Oh, it's greatly important. It's again a democratic way they elect their president. So nobody really, as neighborhood president, makes themselves the president. They have to be voted in, and they have a board of directors for the association. There's had to be transparency. And there's all the information that the neighbors need to see what's happening in their community. A lot of them provide a newsletter. Now they send it through email. Before it was printed and put it in mailboxes. And so people that read through those, and they could ask questions like, okay, well, where's this money have gone to? Would you explain this to us? And so that's the involvement of the neighborhood association resident, and that's very important, because then you have your checks and balances for an association that continues to thrive.
Right. And then also, don't you think that there's this real need that the residents need to be involved in finding their own solutions to their own problems, so that they take ownership, as opposed to expecting someone else to fix the problems?
Yes, and I think that's one of the things when I get a call, those are the questions I ask, okay, would you explain this more? Sometimes people call out of anger or frustration. They might get called a different department, or they even call the county and they actually belong to the city, or vice versa. I get those calls a lot, and they're frustrated. So I listen and trying to figure out what's the best way to help the community member or the person that is on the other side of the line, and provide that resource for them. So it's important that you listen, you acknowledge their concerns, and then move on. So that takes the level of anger a lot lower.
Right.
So.
I always say to take it down is to just ask, what is it you would like me to do? Because sometimes they really just want to vent. Because when you do that, and then they're like, well, they didn't necessarily want anything, they just wanted to be heard. But it seems that what makes a healthy and successful neighborhood is really based on what I can hear you saying is communication to between the city and the neighborhood, and then connectivity within the neighborhood, so that people know their neighbors and get to know what everybody else's needs are, and then a sense of ownership. Would you say that those are fundamental to success of neighborhoods?
Oh, without a doubt, you hit it right on the nail, and it's a good way to gauge a neighborhood, a city, and actually, Fort Wayne has made a lot of headlines throughout the last few years that it's an affordable city, it's a walkable city, it's a city that could provide best resources for first-time homeowners.
Right.
And so many things, so it's,
Well,
it's good.
I'll argue a little bit about the affordability and the cost of living, because there's some debate on that. Housing, in some ways, is still more affordable if you can find affordable housing, but the cost of living, of cost of goods and services, is not lower. And actually, with all of the development downtown, rents are actually going to be significantly increasing. So the sense that it's still, an affordable place to live, I think it's just a matter of how you look at the numbers, but still the cost of housing. But that also parlays into going back to this idea of the value, property value, and how appraisals are done, and some of the issues that about Southeast, because in neighborhoods they assess the property values based on new buildings or new homes in that community, and that's how but in a lot of those communities there's not as much new builds as in others. So how do you sort of look at this critical issue and help the neighborhoods understand, or help the city's appraisal department understand the issues of looking at property values?
I want to regress to the affordable housing. People are that I know and have lived in Chicago. They have lived in California and other cities and states, and they have sold their homes, came to Fort Wayne, paid cash for the really nice home, and they enjoyed the quietness, the way of living in their neighborhoods. So
no, there's no doubt you get more for your money.
Yes.
But the issue about looking at affordability of housing, you also then have to look at the issue of income, and so we're not, we're still under the country average in income for a household, and so as much as people think that. Yeah, and there's not as many what I would call starter homes or first-time buyer homes that are available for people. I mean, a $300,000 home to me is not a starter home. So I think that there is some issues there. But in terms of these older neighborhoods, there's also the issue of the property value and what you would get for your home. And then the reason that some people don't want to build in certain neighborhoods is because the property value, they're not going to get that return on building that home because it's assessed on the other properties. So I mean, how much of your work and efforts are looking at these sort of more institutionalized or maybe political endeavors that really do influence and have an effect, an impact on the quality of the neighborhoods, the vibrancy of the neighborhoods, for instance, with the whole appraisals and property values? I mean, do you get involved with working with the city's appraisal department to get them to understand sort of how to assess some neighborhoods, and how does that work?
I don't.
Okay.
Plain and simple. That's a different department and different people that are way higher than me, and I leave to the experts for that. So what I do is to really focus on the way of belonging, the way of improving your neighborhood association, and taking care of their association. I could tell you, living here over 25 years, there's several neighborhoods that when I first moved in, they were in a pretty bad shape.
Right.
Now they're thriving businesses, and communities that are from different ethnic groups are investing. They're changing their neighborhood, the makeup of the neighborhood association, and the businesses as well. So I think we have a great group of immigrants and refugees that are doing as well, and people in our diverse communities that are giving their best to make it this city a better place.
And I think a perfect example of that is that Brackenridge neighborhood, that's sort of where Rudy's is. So it's, I guess it's, would you say it's next to or lines like Parkview Field, that they've really turned that into, they've sort of come together and they created an LLC association, and they're actually buying up some of the other buildings around Rudy's, where that cigar place is. Can you talk a little bit about what's happening there?
Well, again, the development of Parkview Field has, really exploded that area. And again, having a ballpark that it's breaking every year prior to the pandemic, the attendance records, and it's incredible. So
Right.
people see the benefit of having this amenities come to the city. I believe that, when you travel out of town and you go to Chicago, you go to Detroit, you go directly to the downtown area. You really don't go to a specific neighborhood unless you have that plan. But most of the people go to the downtowns and walk around.
Right.
And most of the people do that,
Right.
and look at the lakes, or
Right.
there's many great things.
But one
there.
of the number one draws for people when they do go to a city is they want to go out into the neighborhoods. They want to experience that diversity and culture. So they want to go to like Little Havana or Little Italy or Chinatown, or in Chicago where I lived, Boys Town, and so they want that experience, and they want what makes that diverse and different. And I think that sometimes we're trying too hard to sort of make sure that everything is inclusive and invites everybody. And I think that there's a difference between being welcoming to people, but I think that it's okay to have your culture and identity be associated with a specific area. And I think in some ways, I think we're trying to take that away from some of the neighborhoods.
Well, I think it's different. Again, and I'll tell you my experiences of living here for 25 years. There's pockets of groups that live in different areas of the city, and they do, provide that, that sense of different cultures and so forth. But you can travel throughout the city and find different groups like that. And I think that's even better because, you're not just isolated in one place.
Right.
You're thriving at different areas of the city, so that you're providing dollars into different neighborhoods. And
Right.
I think that's even better to have that and have that experience.
So what neighborhood do you live in?
Lincoln.
So what is that? Where is that, and what's that neighborhood like?
It's actually close to the zoo.
Okay.
And a lot of improvements had happened actually in the past years. Goshen Road got improved. They have sidewalks as well, the runabout there, and the 4 Points Neighborhood Association. So a lot of things are happening, and people really like that.
And do you think that did a lot of that change bubble up, like the grassroots from the neighborhood bringing attention to the city, saying, hey, we need improvements, or was it more just the city's focus on neighborhoods and sort of taking a look, or was it both?
I believe it was both, because we started talking about a plan, right? There's a plan already set for many neighborhoods that are done through the Board of Works, and improving just about everything. And those might move up depending, again, on the way that neighborhoods really reach out to their city officials, their council members as well, and the mayor as well. So
Right.
there's a good way, way of communication that it has to happen in order to get things done.
So do you think that some of it, there's the truth in the squeaky wheel gets the attention? Do you think there's some about being enforced?
Well, again, it's different personalities. There's squeaky wheels that are not even, really squeaky. They actually find ways to relate to an official, and also look at the long-term goal for that plan of the neighborhood. And so there's different ways to do it.
So talk about this idea of when you look to transform a neighborhood, the idea of the broken window theory. and what that is, and how does that impact what happens in neighborhoods?
Well, I think that's a prime example that Javier did at his neighborhood association, is finding an area, living in an area that it was in a pretty bad shape. You know, there were shootings, people getting inside of their homes, you know, robbing them and stuff. But he saw the opportunity to really change the neighborhood. And the broken windows, like if you have broken windows, then people think you don't care about it.
Right.
So a prime example, Mount Vernon, is just something that they're doing fantastic. They have turned around this neighborhood association within the past 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Because
the overall crime rate is down 73%.
Yes.
And so the idea of the broken window is also, if you see a problem and you don't fix it, it also could become worse, right? Because then it just becomes that people think that people don't care, so then they just, you know, neglect things. They don't clean up the trash. They, you know, don't. So it's sort of a giving that it's important to build that sense of pride and to take care of where you live and the environment.
Oh, certainly, and it's great to see this because as we continue to grow, as I mentioned before, we are showcasing our neighborhoods and the pride and joy of our community. The more we continue to grow and stay in touch, we will grow together, and the many things are happening. I believe, you know, the mayor before the street department spent like only $5 million on streets for the whole year, you know, or less. And it was hard because there was a lot of need for the streets to get done. When the mayor took over, he actually they're investing about over $22 million on the neighborhoods to get the streets done. And actually, if you look around, there's a lot of construction happening, and I believe that it's a great way that a great sign that, you know, our community continues to grow and it's taking care of their neighborhoods.
And talk about the issues though that you see within certain neighborhoods, or the idea about the home ownership versus renting, and what that impact is on a neighborhood.
Well, I hear it from the actual neighborhood president. So they are concerned that many of the homeowners or the landlords are from out of state, and they really don't pay attention what's happening here. They might be in California, they might be in South America. I heard.
Right, I heard one group is in Australia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you know, there's a sense of trying to figure out the best way so they take care of the neighborhood associations. A great precedent has put on their covenants that they are not. They're not going to have landlords there anymore. So they had a date that they established.
That they won't have any more absentee? What neighborhood is that?
Lafayette Place. They're doing a fantastic job not having landlords.
So do they then create, like Brackenridge did, they created a corporation where they actually then have several private investors, and they've developed a 5-year plan and are actually buying up and renovating like all those historic homes and then selling them. Is that what they're trying to do with when like a home or something comes up for sale, that they have people who will then buy it that are local?
Well, no, it's on the covenants. They say whoever is buying a property, you are welcome to have it for your family, but you're not gonna rent it.
Oh, so you have to live there?
Yes.
Wow. And how long have they been doing that?
Oh, it's been several years, and you know, they have an annual social gathering. They have music and ice cream, you know, again, prior to COVID.
And you think that that's made a big difference in the neighborhood?
Well, the sense of pride and the sense of having their property values continue to grow and maintain them.
Sure.
So they're doing a great job. So there's Lafayette Place and many others are doing something like that. And actually they have, that's one of the things I do as a liaison is I host a neighborhood presidents meeting where people exchange ideas. I have presenters that provide information, real estate attorneys, the mayor, city council members show up and provide that information to them. So once people get started and hear, oh, I'm doing this in my neighborhood,
right.
You could do the same,
right.
and that just makes it together.
Well, that goes back to that communication.
Yes.
So I have to ask you, so what does the whole Electric Works project mean for those surrounding neighborhoods, or what do you think it's going to mean for those neighborhoods?
Well, I think it's going to grow, and just when General Electric was here, I mean, those were thriving neighborhoods. That's why they use Ewing Street as one way, because people needed to get out
right,
out of the General Electric. So, it's a fantastic development, and it's going to make Fort Wayne be a city that they're going to look into.
Right. But it'll also, you think, help foster the success of and vibrancy of those neighborhoods around it.
Oh yes, and our neighborhood presidents around that area are really working hard to set the tone for the neighborhood association, and that's where comes that leadership that Poplar Neighborhood Association and others around that area that are doing a fantastic job.
So at the end of each And Good Company program, I ask guests the same 12 questions that French novelist Marcel Proust popularized from a Victorian parlor game. What is your favorite word?
Resilience.
What is your least favorite word?
Cannot. Or is too.
Well, we could do the contraction.
Yes. Can't. Yes.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Being genuine.
What turns you off creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Being have apathy.
What sound or noise do you love?
I thought about all this stuff, and I was like, okay.
Well, because you're not supposed to prepare, so it's good that you can't. It's supposed to be like what comes to your mind. So, what sound or noise do you love?
Laughter from my kids and people that I dearly care about.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Just noise, that pollution.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Pilot.
What profession would you not like to do?
I wouldn't like to do I can't, I'm blanking here. Just fireman, because they
right, they go into danger.
Yes.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
My children and the things I have overcome over the years.
Who, living or dead, would you most like to have a conversation with?
My ancestors before the Spanish invasion.
How would you like to die?
With a smile.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
She will say, welcome back. Here's your next assignment.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to hearing more about your assignments in the neighborhoods.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You can learn more about And Good Company and all the other great conversations we have had at andgoodcompany.info. We look forward to next week when we can again invite you to enjoy a seat at the table for great conversation and good company.